their love survived even hell. All right, and that's the kind of quality that made them stand out from the rest of the other shades or the rest of the other souls. All right, let's continue. This was the piteous tale they stopped to tell. And when I heard those world offended lovers, I bowed my head. And at last the poet spoke. What painful thoughts are these your lowered brow covers? So, in short, Dante was kind of, um, he was not to say touched, but he was definitely affected by what he heard about Paolo and Francesca, that he kind of lowered his head, kind of in mm, probably solidarity. Not solidarity, it's not like he experienced the same thing, but just to probably experience all the things that Francesca was talking about, and Virgil kind of just nudged him and asked him, "Hey, what's wrong with you?" All right, and then to continue, Dante answered, when at length I answered, I began, alas, what sweetest thoughts, what green and young desire led these two lovers to this sorry pass. He is saying that, it's too bad. The kind of love that Paolo and Francesca shared, it was sweet. What sweetest thoughts, it could have been probably pure, but what made it wrong was that they were both green and young. When you say you're green, it means you're inexperienced. And since he says it's young desire, it's probably their first brush with desire. And because they were inexperienced, they didn't know how to deal with it properly. And in the sense, how do you properly deal with desire? You don't give in to it. But since they weren't able to control it because of their inexperience, that's the very thing that led them down to hell, right? So to continue, then turning to those spirits once again, I said, Francesca, what you suffer here melts me to tears of pity and of pain, but tell me, in the time of your sweet sighs, by what appearance has found love the way to lure you to his perilous paradise? He is asking her, okay, your love was good, it was pure in the beginning, but what turned love into desire, which would eventually lead you to hell? And this is how she answers. And she, the double grief of a lost bliss is to recall its happy hour in pain. Your guide and teacher knows the truth of this. So she's talking about how Virgil has written of love and loss in the Aeneid. And she talks about how, okay, if she has to answer Dante, she's going to experience double grief. So this kind of grief has two layers. The first is that of actually losing that happiness that you once had, and the second layer is being forced to remember how happy you were, how you lost that happiness during the time of great grief. Right? So, but she says it's fine. Okay, so if I answer this question of yours, I'm going to experience this double kind of grief, but I'm still going to answer it anyway. All right, so to continue. But if there is indeed a soul in hell to ask of the beginning of our love, out of his pity, I will weep and tell. On a day for dalliance, we read the rhyme of Lancelot, how love had mastered him. We were alone with innocence in dim time. Pause after pause, that high old story drew our eyes together while we blushed and paled. But it was one soft passage, overthrew our caution and our hearts. For when we read how her fond smile was kissed by such a lover, he who is one with me alive and dead, breathed on my lips the tremor of his kiss. That book, and he who wrote it, was a pander. That day we read no further. So this is her answer to Dante's question, what turned your love into desire, into something that is sinful? And this is her answer. So she says, on that day for dalliance, we read the rhyme of Lancelot. So on they were carrying on an affair, but it was still innocent, meaning there was no touching involved, because she says we were alone with innocence in dim time. So okay, so they knew they had feelings for each other, they were seeing each other, but they were doing anything except for reading literature. And what were they reading? They were reading the tale of tale of Lancelot Guinevere, and you know these people because they're from King Arthur. All right, and King Arthur. So it's a love triangle basically. So you have King Arthur marrying Guinevere, and then Lancelot being one of King Arthur's knights, fell in love with Guinevere, and they had that forbidden affair and all of that. So they were reading about these two, and she said, while they were reading, she said, pause after pause, that high old story drew our eyes together. Well, they blushed and paled. So they were blushing and then going pale at the same time, because they were seeing parallels between the love story of Guinevere and Lancelot and themselves too, because they were, they're both forbidden love, and uh, even though they knew it was forbidden, they still pushed through with it. And then, so that's why they were growing pale, but then they were also blushing because these two were, going for it. But it was this one particular moment that Francesca says, kind of inspired them to commit sin. And it was when we read how her fond smile was kissed by such a lover. She's talking about how when Lancelot kissed Guinevere, it is that at that moment that they threw caution to the wind, and he who is one with me alive and dead, she's now referring to Paolo, breathed on my lips the tremor of his kiss. So when they read that Lancelot kissed Guinevere, it was also at that point that Paolo was then inspired to kiss what's her name, Francesca. All right, and if we're going to talk about, all right, what kind of kiss could possibly get you to hell? One would imagine a very, very uh, uh, carnal kind of kiss. Like when someone's trying to swallow some other person's face, that kind of kiss. But if you look at the description of their kiss, it's actually very innocent if you look at it, because when someone says he breathed on my lips the tremor of his kiss, when you breathe your lips onto someone, it's a very kind of gentle, almost innocent kind of touch. And then it talks about a kiss having some sort of tremor. There's trepidation there's hesitation, and there's also excitement. So it kind of almost feels like a first kiss of sorts, it's all very innocent. It's not what someone would imagine to be the kind of kiss that could bring you down to hell. But Dante is very unforgiving. It's loving isn't a sin, but the moment that you touch someone, even if it's just one tiny innocent kiss, that kind of ruins love. It isn't pure anymore, and so they're now in hell because of that one kiss. Because they read someone kissing in literature, then they kissed. Alright, so now they're in hell for reading romance. Alright? And as she said this, the other spirit who stood by her wept so piteously, and I felt my senses reel and faint away with anguish. I was swept by such a swoon as death is, and I fell as a corpse might fall to the dead floor of hell. So he is talking about how, let's move my face for a while, he's talking about how after Francesca finished her tale of what she and Paolo experienced, he was overcome with so much loss and pity, almost as if he went through what Francesca and Paolo went through. And because of all that outpouring of feeling, he fainted on the floor of hell. And that is the end of Dante Alighieri's Canto V, Circle 2. Alright, so if you have any questions for this, feel free to email me about this.